Okay, so since Season 15 has just finished releasing, I've rewatched the full thing twice, and I've also rewatched quite a few episodes from it at random, so I think it's safe to say that I've definitely had enough experience with the season to gather my final thoughts on it, and I do believe my honeymoon phase on the season has worn off now, so I do now know exactly what I think of the season, and honestly, my final thoughts are looking pretty good. Quickly though, before we get into the video, if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed, seriously, what are you doing? We post videos exactly like this one every single day, so if you subscribe, you won't be missing out on any future content from me. Firstly, I think we should dive straight into the focus ninja of the season, Nia. Now, her story was really good. It was, of course, our first ever official Nia season, which is immediately a huge plus side, and I'd say they made her a much more likeable character in this season, and so I have to give props to the people behind the show for managing to pull that one off. Her relationship with Maya and that arc was one of my favourites from the entire season, as it was really interesting to see just how those two interact, because of course Maya has been absent for most of Nia's life, and so that arc showed us more of their dynamic, and it showed us that Maya just wanted to try and be the best mother she possibly could, but Nia continued to push her away, and so it sets up a really interesting dynamic there, and it was also pretty sad honestly, but in general I think it was executed really well, and I couldn't have really asked for much better there. Next, let's talk about the villains, as they were 100% one of, if not the standout part of the season, at least to me. Kalmar especially was so great, and it's safe to say that his incredible voice acting totally made him better, and when you compare Kalmar to other Ninjago villains, he actually stands out among them all really, as it's not very often that we get villains in Ninjago that are written so you completely just hate them, at least not to that same extent. That's one thing I really enjoyed about Kalmar. He was a great villain, but you just hated him so much, especially after seeing how he killed his own father and essentially bullied an adopted brother of his. That all built up and it really made you just despise this guy. The side villains were also solid, and added an extra flair to the season and the episodes, specifically Glutinous and Gripe. I really love those guys, especially Glutinous. He was definitely a unique character, and I truly do hope he pops up again in the future. As for Gripe, I thought he was definitely a humorous and enjoyable character for the most part. However, he did have some slip-ups where I just found him extremely annoying and irritating, and I feel like the writers just used him for some very questionable joke scenes, which I'm not a fan of personally, but I can still kind of see why that choice was made. Now, aside from the actual villains themselves, the motivation and story behind it, Kalmar, in my opinion, was both unique and also generic, in the sense that he just wanted to conquer Ninjago, which is definitely something we've seen happen a lot throughout Ninjago's run, and it is getting a bit stale at this point. With that being said though, Kalmar's backstory did make this way more enjoyable to watch on screen. That and the fact he was just so hateable took away from the fact that, yeah, he is kind of generic, so I think the motivation behind awakening Wojira is kind of a mixed bag honestly. Taking a quick break away from the characters themselves this time, let's discuss the animation in the season. As I've said so much before, Wild Brain does truly keep getting better. A good example of this would be the water animation. Back in Season 11 it felt kind of boring and a bit flat, but in Season 15 it feels extremely fluid and kind of realistic, which made this season more pleasing to the eye. I do definitely think Wild Brain deserves more credit for their insane animation that they keep providing us with. I definitely think that sometimes it does get way too much hate, when in reality, if you sat back and took in all of the details and in the animation, you definitely begin to appreciate it a lot more. So that's basically all I have to say in that department. The animation was once again very phenomenal. Next I want to talk about something that's maybe a little random, but the ninja. While I love the dynamic between Jay, Nia, Lloyd and Zane, I almost felt that we didn't see enough of Cole and Kai, especially Kai honestly. At this point he does genuinely feel like more of a side character, which I just do not like at all. He's definitely in need of his own season. Cole on the other hand, I can kind of understand his lack of screen time a bit more I guess, as, well, he just had his own season centered all around him about a year ago, but still, seeing them more would have been nice. Would have been great to also see them aid the other ninja group and actually go underwater. Maybe then we could see their scuba suits in the show, but for now those suits just aren't canon for Kai and Cole. Point is, I just felt as though they were heavily underutilized in the season, and seeing more of them would have made this season way better. We've already touched on this with the villains, but the overall story of this season. I think it was both generic, but also very unique. Kind of weird, I know. That being said, I think everything about it was really enjoyable, especially the Benthomar backstory and the finale. Those were some highlights of the season for me, and how could we forget about Nia's sacrifice? Hands down one of the best things to come out of Ninjago, and just as everyone was doubting Bragi, everybody was definitely proved wrong. Still can't get over how amazing that all was. That finale alone has me so incredibly hyped for the future of Ninjago. If they can keep up this kind of quality, or make it even better somehow, seriously, Ninjago is going to be insane. Lastly, let's brush over my final thoughts on the season. As I've said a million times in this video, it was phenomenal, and the rewatch value on this season is actually surprisingly really good. As I've mentioned before, I've rewatched the season in full 2 times now, and have watched a few random episodes from the season even more, and I'm still not burnt out from it, and I could easily start rewatching it once again right now. In the grand scheme of things, I'm not too sure where exactly I'd rank it among the other seasons, but it's potentially top 3 material for me, honestly, although I'd have to do a lot more thinking on that. I do believe it's too early to properly decide. So for a ranking out of 10, I'll give it a 10 out of 10 genuinely. I have barely any complaints with the season, and the complaints I do have are only quite minor, so I think a 10 out of 10 score is definitely much deserved. With this being said though, these were my final thoughts on Ninjago Season 15 Seabound. Hopefully you all enjoyed this one here guys, feel free to leave your own thoughts down below in the comment section, and with this being said, if you did enjoy today's video, be sure to leave a like on it. For more videos exactly like this one, plus a whole lot more, make sure you're subscribing and turning on post notifications so you never miss out on any future Ninjago content from me. With all of this finally being said though, I will see you all in my next one.